Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the October 17th Traffic Commission. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, to start us off, Madam Clerk, would you mind doing a quick attendance? It's okay. Everyone here is present. No, that's fine. Okay, so we'll first tackle the two items we have tonight for a public hearing. The first item is amend Schedule 5 of Title 10, one-way streets by adding Essex Street, location Essex Street, direction northerly from Park Ave to Mountain Ave. Are there any proponents or Counselor?
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. This is a proposal to make Essex Street one-way in a northerly direction from Park Ave to Mountain. This last year, we've had some success. We made two other streets on the north side of Park Avenue, one-way Hancock going up from Park Ave to Mountain, and Cambridge Street coming down. It's been very successful. This is just another street that the residents have reached out to me, and I think it would be a great way to calm the traffic down on these streets. And there was a traffic study done several years ago, and this street is in compliance with what that traffic study indicated. So if you could look on this favorably, I'd appreciate it, and I know there's one or two residents here that would like to get up and speak about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any proponents for this amendment?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony DeMarco. I live at 20 Essex Street in Revere. I've been there for 30 years. Essex Street has become a highway of heaven for cars going both directions. There's a school at the bottom of the street, a preschool. That traffic is just horrendous in the mornings, dropping the kids off and then picking them up and then dropping them off and picking them up. They have two sessions there. And try to get by, forget about it. I have pictures I've taken of people going both ways, and somebody's going to get hurt. Also, I was told years ago that Essex Street, in order to make it, we really wanted it to come down the street and have it one way coming off, so you can't get off Park Ave. Just come down for Mountain Ave. But I was told that the streets need to go up and down by our last ward councilor, not Paul. And so we never had anything done about it. He said he had brought it up, but I don't know if he ever did or he didn't. But that's the way ideally we'd like to have it made, but at this point, we need something done either up or down. You go to the top of Essex Street, you try to make a left or a right, there's a car parked right on the corner. A guy coming around the corner this way, I've gotten into many arguments, no one wants to give, no one wants to budge. My daughter got into a bad argument with somebody up there recently who wouldn't back his truck up. She was trying to get up the street. So we need to really do something about it. And at night, they fly off Park Ave. They come up. I have videos. If you want to see them, I would gladly show them to you. They just come like 90 miles an hour off Park Ave. I don't know how you can stop something like that, but it's gotten crazy because you have the nursing home at the top of the street, and then you have the projects right beyond that. So they use that as a come up, take the right and a left, and they go through the projects that way. They just fly up the street. And then you have the Cisco truck that delivers to the nursing home that likes to come up and down the street and a tractor trailer, which he misses the wires by about 3 inches. There should also be a no truck, I would say a no truck zone or street. If he has to access the nursing home, he should be doing it either through Broadway or through Mountain Ave. Because that's the way I drove truck for many years, and you shouldn't be driving in a residential area, especially, you know, I know they got to get their deliveries, but they shouldn't be using our street as a cut-through. So I don't know if you want to take that into consideration for a no-truck zone as well, that would be great. But ideally, something has to get done, and this is why I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other proponents? Any opponents? No? Any comments from the council? Commission, sorry. Is this, Frank, I'm sorry, Councilor Stranger, do you have a copy of this report that Councilor spoke about?
It was basically an evaluation we did in-house to determine which streets should be one-way in which directions. All those streets should be one-way because
I agree.
they can't handle two-way traffic and parking lanes, so.
It just seems like this is gonna be a domino effect, it's gonna be street after street after street. I think we should try to
Yeah,
look at this
at
as
one
a whole as
time,
well.
I suggest we do it all at once, but the ward council at the time wanted to handle it
Okay.
street by street. So I think Paul is just picking up
Yeah,
where we left off.
so, Mr. Chairman, to your point, at one point, we were considering doing it all at once, but just doing Cambridge Street, a few weeks ago, it was a nightmare
Yeah.
trying to get everybody trained.
noticed that.
If we did all the streets at once, it'd be like a demolition derby, probably.
As long as we're following the same guidelines that was set up by the traffic study. Yep,
So I use this as an example. If you go down Prospect Street in Cambridge, Mass., similar to Park Ave, every street you cannot go up. So if you have to get to your house and you live on a street, you have to, and that intersects with another city, just like Park Ave does. So Park Ave goes up into Elm Street in Chelsea. Prospect Street goes into Alston and Cambridge. They made all those streets years ago, you cannot go up the street. You have to go around, you have to go to the main intersections, either at this end or this end, to go around to come down the street. Works very well. Frustrating if you're trying to get to your house, but you have to go around the block. But
yeah,
once you get used to it, it works there. And that stopped a lot of accidents, stopped a lot of racing and stuff like that.
okay,
I drove in that area for a long time, so that's how I know. But
okay, thank you. All right, is there any motions on the floor from the
I
committee?
make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Madam Clerk, can we do a quick roll call for the council? No? Okay, that's fine. All right, motion is approved. Schedule, amend schedule Title 5 of Title 10, one-way streets by adding Essex Street, Northerly Park Ave to Mountain Ave, approved. Second item, request to install a crosswalk on Sergeant Street at the Paws and Play Dog Park, which is located at 68 Sergeant Street. Is there anyone to speak on behalf of that matter? No? I actually do recommend that we move forward with approving that. It's something I think is necessary. To go across that?
Yeah, I looked at it out there, and it's, it would be a mid-block crosswalk.
Yeah, so it's,
I think at the intersection of Griffin, the first house in, right off the intersection on Sergeant Street, we could do it there. Otherwise, there are other driveways in the way, and if you go further towards, yeah, if you go towards, what's the name of this, Ritchie Road.
Yep.
You have the two ramps leading up to the Route 1 coming off there, so there's really no other location to put it.
yeah, it seems like there's a nice spot for it. The opposite side, we will have to install a ADA compliant ramp, but I think it's necessary, to be completely honest. So is there a motion from the council?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve with the addition of some type of a light or a blinking crosswalk sign or something to that effect, because that road's fairly wide.
Okay.
And to get across, it's a long ways, especially if you're walking a dog, and people drive pretty fast, so.
Agreed.
I think it needs to be, needs to be very obvious that there's a crosswalk there.
Okay. All right, is there a second? Second. Motion is approved. Okay, now I'd like to call up
Right at the intersection.
the head of community development, Tom Sawarski, to speak on behalf of, to the commission regarding traffic calming policies, internal policies. I put you on the spot.
That's the only public hearings, that's it.
All set?
Great. Good evening, Commissioners. Tom Skrowski, Chief of Planning and Community Development. I'm here tonight to talk about creating sort of an internal policy, a process for which we approve traffic calming initiatives in the city. This has been, I know, something that's been a large agenda item. We see many such items on the agenda tonight for the Traffic Commission and the City Council as well. There have been increasingly more and more petitions looking to handle traffic calming strategies within various neighborhoods, and this is really an effort ultimately to create just a clear, predictable process by which we do that. So the packet that was submitted to you is the full policy for the sake of all the folks here tonight. I have some quick visuals just to run through an overview of what we're looking at. The objective of this is really to create safe and slow streets for all road users, benefits like reducing vehicle speed, dangerous driving behavior, improving safety for pedestrians, reducing the need for police enforcement. So if we design streets the right way, we don't constantly need to fall into that trap of having to have more and more enforcement when there isn't always the person power to handle it. Enhancing the street environment, preserving neighborhood character, increasing access for all modes of transportation, and reducing cut-through motor vehicle traffic like we just talked about on that last petition. And then ultimately for us, creating an efficient, data-informed, standard-based strategy for implementing these traffic calming policies. So we're not just looking at one tool, such as a speed hump, but we're really looking at everything in our toolbox. We're looking at clear standards to follow and using data to really guide our decision-making. So the policy is organized into a few different categories. I'll start with traffic calming standards, and it starts with the 4 key standards that are outlined by the Federal Highway Administration: horizontal deflection, vertical deflection, road diets, and route restrictions. And then within each of them, the traffic calming policy just kind of outlines the various tools that are in our toolbox within each of those. So just to go over them briefly, horizontal deflection is slowing speeds by creating a horizontal shift in the roadway. What we see up here on the screen is what's called a lateral shift. You're basically requiring the motorist to shift laterally, and so it's not just a straightaway where they can pedal to the metal, speed right through a street. The second is vertical deflection. I think that's the one we're most familiar with here in the city, and we've got a picture of our favorite there, the speed hump, which I know we are getting a lot of petitions to look at speed humps, but there's other methods of vertical deflection that basically require a driver to slow down because otherwise they'll be in the air. The third is street width reduction. Road diets, a common one. What we see here is a choker extension or rather a corner extension and a bulb out, which is something similar to what we talked about on Harris Street with some of the work we did there a few months past. And then finally, route restrictions, whether a closure, a diagonal diverter, median barriers, or even something like what we talked about today with the one-way transition. So within each of those standards, all of the tools in our toolbox, if you will, the traffic calming policy has a guide associated with each and every one of those that can give us some guidance, both the Traffic Commission and other city officials, to look at, what is the appropriate application for a particular traffic calming device. What are some design considerations? What are some impacts we need to think about? There's always a section that looks at the emergency response issues that it might present. So if we're looking at a traffic calming strategy on a road that is heavily utilized by emergency response vehicles, then we can think about which one is most appropriate given the context. And then looking at a cost in 2017 dollars, so we're gonna have to bump that number up a little bit, adjusting for inflation, but it gives us a good sense of what each of these strategies will cost us. And then we created a petition process for how we would go through these various petitions. So essentially, it would start with the city council, and we'd have a formal petition that we'd create that would just kind of make it uniform across the board. And if the petition's not approved by the city council, of course, that's where it would end, and wouldn't go any further. But if it were to proceed, then it would go to our traffic working group for a review. And the traffic working group has been newly formed this year. It includes members of the DPW, police, fire, Zach from the parking department, as well as my department, and folks that are really able to do some on-the-ground analysis of the various traffic calming petitions that are coming through. And that working group would then collect volume and speed data and score the projects according to various criteria. If the project meets the minimum eligibility, the traffic working group would then work on proposing a solution based off of the toolkit we just talked about, based off of the standards within each of those solutions. If the traffic working, if it does not meet the minimum requirements, then it would stop there. The petition would not proceed. But we would look at things like enforcement measures or driver education, or even things like crosswalks where appropriate. After a solution is proposed, we would look at is funding available for the project, which is, I think, a key consideration that we'd like to be a little bit more systematic in how we think about it. If there's not funding available, we would put a project like that on the capital needs budget for the next year to be completed July 1 of the following year. If there is funding available, my department would lead a design effort working with DPW engineering and our on-call engineering firms that we have that work with the city to design a solution and present the solution to the Traffic Commission for an ultimate approval. And if the Traffic Commission does not approve the project, the petition stops there. If they do, it moves forward and gets implemented, and it's as simple as that. Really what we are doing now, but just formalizing it a bit more. And two elements of the process that I want to go into a bit more detail is how we actually score things according to the minimum criteria and the prioritization criteria. So with each and every project, each and every petition that comes through, the traffic working group would look at prevailing speeds, street width, minimum traffic volume, public support, and whether there's an engineering solution available. And these are sort of the base level minimum criteria that would need to be met for us to move forward with some form of a solution. So is the 85th percentile speed exceeding 25 miles an hour? That's sort of the engineering threshold for determining does speeding actually occur on the street. Is the street width no wider than 40 feet? If it's an extremely wide street, you can't do things like speed humps or vertical deflection. You need to think about a larger solution, and it's not appropriate for the tools we have in that toolbox. Is there at least 800 vehicles per day? So we want to make sure we're actually implementing improvements on streets that are widely utilized during the day to get more bang for our buck and spreading out the impact. We want at least 10 households to support a project on that street. And then finally, is there actually an engineering solution available to take care of this problem? So provided it meets all of those minimum eligibility criteria, it would enter the queue for funding. If there were multiple projects that we were, actually, I won't go there quite yet. If it doesn't meet the minimum eligibility criteria, we'd look at all these other strategies that I mentioned before. So neighborhood signs, restricted movement signs, targeted police enforcement, speed display units, so the radar signs. But if it does meet the minimum criteria and it moves into the funding queue, what the traffic working group then will also look at is all else equal. Say we have only enough money for one project and 3 projects are coming through the pipeline at this time, we would use a scoring criteria to look at which ones are prioritized to the front of the line, so to speak. So if the 85th percentile exceeds 30 miles an hour, another way of saying cars that are going very fast, it would get an extra point. If the street is adjacent to a school, a public space, a senior center, affordable housing, a building of worship, basically a place where a lot of people congregate, this would be another case where it would get another prioritization point. Is the street adjacent to an upcoming street reconstruction project? So it's always cheaper to implement traffic calming on roads where things are already happening, so that would move it up in the queue. And then, has this neighborhood had similar traffic calming solutions implemented in the last year? We want to make sure we're equitably distributing the funding for these projects across the board. So that's the prioritization criteria we look at, all else equal, to help us determine what we're funding. And that's really it in a nutshell. That's what the process would look like internally, and what I would ask of you tonight in terms of next steps, I would ask for an approval of this internal process. Again, it's not a law or ordinance change or anything like that. It's just how we'll handle these moving forward. I would like to have sort of general buy-in from the group here, and if approved, I'd then present the same to the city council, just so we had a shared understanding of what the process was moving ahead, and would release that petition form to the public so they'd have a clear process to move forward with submitting these petitions to the city. And then the traffic working group would begin to work through the petition backlog related to traffic calming projects. And I'll stop there and take any questions if you have them.
Does anyone have any questions? I saw this report. I mean, I like it. I think it's a great standard to set our traffic calming measures through from now on. I would recommend we vote on this now and set this in stone so our internal processes are clean cut and to the point.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we, we adopt these traffic calming policy. They're in line with Federal Highway Administration guidelines, so leading us in the right direction in the future and making these kind of decisions, so.
Awesome.
Make a motion, we adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
Appreciate it.
Approved.
Thank you.
Well, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Joanne McKenna. Is State Road, did you put State Road in as a no parking on the left side of, the right side? You did? Okay. You didn't inform me, no offense. The second thing is, if you are going to do that, I agree with it, because you can't take that right lane going to Broadway, so I agree with it. It definitely will hurt the stores across the street. They have limited parking right now, and when Mass DOT comes in, they're going to eliminate a couple of those parking spaces. So these stores won't have anything, any place to park. Okay, I just wanted to ask you, if you're going to do this, will you put, lines? Okay, all right, thanks.
All right. No more questions? Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Okay, now on to the requests. Oh, I'm sorry. These are not actually requests. These are public hearing. Okay. So apparently these are also public hearings. Amend Schedule 8 of Title 10, restricted parking generally by adding no parking on right-hand side of road on Mill Street northerly from Beach Street entire length. Is there anyone here to speak on the matter?
Councilor
Council.
McKenna, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've been having a lot of problems with Mill Street. First of all, I want to say that waives all the apps. And I asked Laurie if this could be a public hearing, so I brought a lot of people with me, and she said it was fine, because I had put this in before, and she forgot it. So I asked if this could be a public meeting. What's happening with Mill Street is, first of all, the apps, Waze, are taking all these people from Revere Beach Parkway, and they're cutting through Vinyl Street onto Mill Street. Mill Street is a mess. It's been cut up for a number of years. I've asked for it to be paved. I've asked for a speed bump. I had lines there when I first became councilor, but it's been torn up so much that they can't do it until it gets paved. So what I'm asking for, there's a lot of traffic coming off of Beach Street and coming off of Revere Beach Parkway. And people are parking on both sides of the street. So I'm asking for one-sided parking, and I'm also asking for 24/7 permit parking for the residents there because they're having a hard time parking.
Okay, hold on. 1 second, Counselor. So this is asking for just no parking on right-hand side of the road. The road is going to be paved, just so you remain aware.
Yeah, okay, and I did ask for a speed bump, Winthrop Ave, Mill Street,
But-
and Endicott Ave.
There's no parking on the right-hand side of this lane?
There's two-side parking right now.
But will parking on one side of the road correct the issue you see here?
It would help people, you know, a maneuver, going in, coming out. It would help, you know,
Okay.
if cars were coming, if there's two cars coming, one's coming up, one's coming down, it would help maneuver the cars. It wouldn't be a tight squeeze.
Okay, I
I
haven't
mean,
had a chance to look at this. Does anyone else?
It's a big,
know?
it's a wide street, but you really can't get down it because people are parking on two sides of the streets. So, I have people, some residents that would like to speak too.
Okay, just one more, I don't mind people speaking, but I would like to have this put into the agenda as a public hearing, so other people, if they disagree with us, can still speak on this item as
Sure,
well.
I get it.
Was this advertised?
No.
No, it was not.
But what happened was the communication of emails got mixed up, so.
Okay, that's fine. I do, if anyone's here, they'd like to speak on behalf of this, that is fine, but I would like to have this also be a public hearing for next meeting, just so anyone else, opponents, proponents, have the opportunity to speak on this.
Hi, my name is Linda Doherty, 24 Mill Street. I've lived there for 68 years. I have pictures of what it looks like with the parking on both sides, and it's gotten even worse because they moved the fire hydrant to the, on the opposite side of Mill Street Place. So now, people are parking right at the corner of Mill Street and Mill Street Place, which is it's really hard for people to get out of Mill Street Place. Then the lady, I have a letter from the lady who lives at the top of the hill on the odd side of Mill Street, and she's concerned because now, you know, cars are parking right there and her driveway goes down, and she's concerned in her letter saying that she's might slide down in the winter, and she's just afraid that she can't back out because she can't see. She's afraid she's gonna go into the cars that are parking right there since they moved the fire hydrant. And then with the parking on both sides, I mean, people are driving down Mill Street like it's a freeway, but with the parking on both sides, I live on the bend, so there's 2 or 3 blind driveways. I'm on the opposite sides, but when I back out, I really have to look left, look right, look left, look right. But when you're starting to go from Mill Street Place to Vinyl Street, with the parking on both sides, people are flying around the bend both ways. So if you're coming from Beach Street, they're literally driving in the middle of the street. So if there's parking coming from the Parkway, coming down to Mill Street, and with the parking on both sides, they're literally driving in the middle of the street. So there's gonna be an accident there. They're gonna have a head-on. And then the plows, when in the winter, they're not gonna be able to clear Mill Street with the parking on both sides. That's gonna be a mess. And some of the people have expressed concerns about getting emergency vehicles down there. I have letters from 3 lifelong residents, and I have some pictures, so I don't know if you want those, but moving the fire hydrant really was not a good thing. I mean, they moved it because they wanted to put it where there was no parking, because the beginning of Mill Street to the bend is no parking. I'm just hoping that they'll do no parking all the way to Hall Street, so you get the full bend, and then from Hall Street, the rest of the way, one side, on the odd side, so that people coming off the Parkway will have to hug the side of the street and stay on the right side, stay on their side of the bend.
Okay.
It's a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, I've had people, before there was even so much parking, literally hit the telephone pole. Then I had the wall, they demolished the wall, and I had people, a mother and 3 kids in my driveway once, and that was before all this parking happened, so.
This may be something we'll be able to correct with enforcement if they're parking that close to the fire hydrant or to the corner
Well,
of the
they're
intersection
not,
of the
they
street.
moved the fire hydrant, and because they moved the fire hydrant, they're right at the end of the driveway now. They moved it from, when you come out of Mill Street Place, it used to be on the left side of Mill Street. Now they moved it on the right side. I think it's in front of like, I think it's like 25 Mill Street, or 30 Mill Street.
Okay.
And because they moved it there, now people are parking right at the corner. We actually have people who park at the corner, they get out, another car comes down the street, picks them up, and then they go to work. So they're even staying there all day long, and it's a mess.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Do you want these or no?
Yeah, we'll take those. Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Balbo?
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the Traffic Commission. Thank you. Zachary Babo, Director of Parking, 281 Broadway. Looking at the current ordinance on Mill Street, it states that Mill Street from Beach Street to Revere Beach Parkway is currently listed no parking either side. It also states, please, let me just, there's also underneath that, so Mill Street has a couple different entries in Muni Code, or now Code 360. The first one is, as I stated, the second one is Mill Street, no parking from Beach Street to Hall Street, which there are signs existing right now to stop that, not beyond that. So I think there would be need to be amendment to this request, where the request should be, we're looking to amend the current ordinance of both sides by removing both and including northern. If we are going to be putting this on for a public request, I think that amendment should be made just to be reflective of what the request is. As the ordinance currently states, there should be no parking along Mill Street right now. With that being said, there is also another ordinance already in the books for Mill Street Place. It states before I see, I just want to be careful. One of the sides is already listed as no parking along Mill Street Place, according to current ordinance. I know this area has gone through massive work, so it's possible signs have been taken down over the years. But Mill Street Place is no parking entire length northerly side, starting from Mill Street to the dead end of the street. So I think kind of what the concerns of the residents, I think the regulations do exist for the most part. If we want to enable one-sided parking as it's currently left like that, I think the request should be amended to just be more apropos.
Okay, well, let's give the council and everyone else an opportunity to actually go see what's going on in this location before we make a final decision. But if you guys would like to move this to a public meeting.
It makes sense
Public hearing.
because the roadway width is only 24, 25 feet, which, if you're going to have it as a two-way street, there should be no parking either side. If you have it as a one-way, yeah, you can have a parking lane on one side. But with one parking lane and two travel lanes, it's very tight. I can't believe, really, they're parking on both sides now and getting through.
Okay, is there a motion from the from the committee? We can either move this to public hearing or try to figure out the actual ordinance. And
Well, I
make
think we need
adjustments.
to
I think it has to go to
decide what
public
we're having a
hearing.
public hearing on, because right now, the way it's worded, is no parking on northerly side.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question of the parking director? Can you just clarify, you said that currently ordinance state that there's no parking on either side for the full length of Mill Street, is that right?
From what I'm reading, under Schedule 8, parking restriction generally, location Mill Street, direction both, starting from Beach Street, ending at Revere Beach Parkway, there is no parking anytime.
Okay. So to move to a public hearing, we'd be adding parking on one side?
Correct.
Because right now, there's technically not supposed to be parking on either side.
There's not supposed to be, but there
Right.
seems to be, yes.
But on the books, there isn't.
Correct.
Okay, understood, thank you.
It seems like everybody's parking now on the northerly side, so that seems to be the way to go. Have restricted parking, no parking on the southerly side.
instead of having another public meeting, can we just go with the ordinance that we have no parking on, from Beach Street to Hall Street? And then I'll make a motion, we can have a public hearing for Hall Street to Revere Beach Parkway. Is that all right, or do you want to just keep it?
If the ordinance stands,
I would rather keep it with the ordinance. So,
okay.
all right?
Zach, do you have some input on that, real quick?
Just from my experience, especially recently with Riverside, I would recommend this go to public hearing to let the neighborhood know that they are
That's
going to have no
very true.
parking on both sides. If there's anyone that would be against that, that would be their opportunity to speak. My only recommendation, thank you.
I have to agree with you.
Can I say one more thing? I didn't know there was no parking on both sides, and I'm all for no parking on both sides of the street. I wish I knew.
All right, well, we're gonna move this to public hearing, just so everyone can be informed of the actual ordinance that's on the, Unicode, yeah. Mill Street, yes, correct. All right, I don't believe we have to vote on something like that, since it's already an ordinance. You guys agree? Okay. Now, the other item, again, this is going to be a request. Amend Schedule 8 of Title 10, parking restrictions generally by adding no parking on the right-hand side of the road. Location, Green Street, southerly from Revere Beach Parkway, entire length.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm here to advocate for Green Street. I know this is a request, but right now, the Silka family, they're putting a 30-unit apartment building on Green Street. It's going to face Lee Burbank Highway, but the other thing is that I want to protect the people that live in Green Street. It's a dead end. And I want to protect the people that live there, residents. So I want to make sure that there's not a lot of parking down there. So I'm looking for just no parking on one right-hand side of the road as we're going down through Revere Beach Parkway, because it is a dead end, and 24/7. That was in the email too, but that was forgot. It was not put in there. So just to protect the residents that live there, so they won't be inundated with traffic.
Okay. Commissioner, I know you guys didn't have much time to review this. Oh, I'm sorry, is there someone else who would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Sean Mackel. I live at 18 Green Street, and I would just like to add some comments about the parking and just the whole situation as someone who lives there. So first thing is, yes, the road itself, it has parking on both sides, but it's really not wide enough for 2 lanes of traffic and 2 lanes of 2 sides of parking. It just isn't. Often with 2 cars are passing, you have to like stop and let the other person by. It's an issue. And then taking that and moving it to the curb cut where it hits the Revere Beach Parkway, that curb cut really isn't wide enough for a car to be entering and exiting at the same time. And it gets super sketchy, especially when people from the 3-lane major highway, parkway, are bombing down the road, and they need to turn into Green Street if someone's pulling out. Basically, they can't pull in, and the person on the parkway has to like almost come to a complete stop. And I'm telling you, every time this happens, I'll just like cross my fingers and hope no one just runs into the back of me. It happens all the time. And it's not just the parkway, it's the people coming off of 1A. They're used to flying down the highway, they get off the off-ramp, and then they want to fly again. And the Green Street is like literally 100 feet from where they get off of 1A. So it's a really dangerous intersection between the parkway and Green Street. So there's that. And I'd also like to add, at certain times of the year, the sun rises on the ocean side. And it's crazy, when the sun is rising, you can't see. It's a total whiteout with just sun in your eyes. So it's a combination of the speed, trying to go down Green Street, and the sun is in your eyes. It's really, really dangerous. So that's Green Street entering and exiting. And also, this isn't necessarily Green Street, but in that area in general, it's kind of on a curve. So people who are pulling in or specifically out of the Pratt Street streets, they can't see what's coming down the parkway. You know, they look, 1 second it's clean, and then like literally a split second, this car's flying down the road in their face. That's also super dangerous. Sorry, I just had a couple bullet points I just want to pull up. Yeah, so there's, and also the people who are coming off of the parkway down Green Street, I guess in talking about what that guy was proposing about just different ways to slow people down, I also like to propose a speed bump, because people come off the parkway going 50 miles an hour and they turn down Green Street, and if you don't live there, I guess you don't care, but they come flying down Green Street at 50 miles an hour. And there's kids who live on the street and they're outside playing and stuff. It's a residential neighborhood, a residential street, directly off of a major, city highway. So there's that. So that's really it. It's not wide enough for 2 lanes and 2 parking, so she's proposing 1 side parking. That's great. As a resident there, the exiting and entering of Green Street from the parkway is a real big issue. So, yes, I appreciate all your help. Thank you all.
Thank you. Members of the commission, you guys have
Mr.
any input on this?
Chairman, do we know what, in
Side?
terms of parking, is on the books currently?
I do not know. I do not.
Zach, do you have any information about that?
Don't mean to put you on the spot here.
So I don't see anything on the books for Green Street at this time.
Okay. Okay. Any motion from the commission? Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Amanda McGordy. I live at 18 Green Street as well. I agree with what my husband was saying, but I just wanted to add that I'm not sure that it makes a difference. I know currently there's permit required parking for overnight parking there.
Correct.
And I think that would be helpful, but I think part of this is there is a apartment, well, it was an office building that's converted to an apartment building at the end of the street that has brought in pretty increased amount of traffic, so to speak, which is fine, but as Councilor McKenna mentioned, there is in the process potentially trying to build a 30-unit apartment building on a single-family home plot with no parking existing there. And their proposal is to have 8 parking spots for that 30-unit building. At the head of Green Street, there's I would call it a parking lot. Half of it's owned by, it looks like the state or the city, but half of it is owned by the person building the thing. So that seems like it's gonna create an even more significant problem with that turning onto, right, we're talking, because otherwise, we're suggesting that the people who are gonna live there are gonna be, I don't know, getting out of their cars on the feeder for 1A, probably not, right? So they're gonna be getting down Green Street as well. And it used to be not as bad because you could go through the old Lee's Trailer Park. And
Yeah.
I think you will be able to once that development is happening. But right now, it's all fenced off, and so
Yeah.
those roads there are closed off. And again, the same person who owns the auto body shop has closed off, and he probably has the right to, but like the throughway that's between his 2 properties, so it, you know what I mean? It's just like a bottleneck that happens. So I mean, the parking will be helpful maybe, but like even with the parking, even if you only parked on one side, 2 cars really can't easily go by even with just one side. So I mean, just wanted to put that out there
Okay,
too.
thank you very much.
I'm fine with parking, I'm just stating the fact that it's just very difficult and very tight, and so.
Okay, commission, do you guys have any?
I make a motion, we move this to a public hearing for the one-sided parking.
Okay, I agree.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, all those
Aye.
opposed? Move to public hearing.
Excuse me, could we also put 24/7?
I don't believe they should have any off-street parking for this building. Was that even a,
They won't, they're not supposed to, anything over, I think, 8.
So they won't be
They're
getting any
not, but
parking permits?
There might be visitors, so I just don't want that to happen. I just want, I want, if it's just overnight, then if people are visiting, they can come after 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and they can park in front of someone's house. So I just want to make sure that these people have the right sticker.
Was this project approved already?
No, but it's
Okay.
coming. It's coming.
Okay, well, let's stick with let's start with the one-sided parking, and let's see if this development actually comes to fruition.
Okay.
I don't want to enact something and just
And then-
hoping for something to happen later down the road.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, move to public hearing. Okay, next item, amend Schedule 9 of Title 10, Resident Parking Streets 24-hour enforcement. Councilor McKenna would like to have Haddon Street changed to 24, 7 days a week, permit parking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the leeway. I just put this in because Victoria Street, which is adjacent to Haddon Street, is 24/7. And the reason why it's 24/7 is because, and it's one-sided parking. And the reason why it's 24/7 is because they have I don't know, a special needs facility that they house special need people there, and they didn't have enough parking, plus people that were on Winthrop Ave were parking there, so where they had one-sided parking, and a lot of people don't have driveways down there in the beginning, residents were having a hard time. So now what's happening is the overflow is going on to Haddon Street. The people that don't have stickers, 24-hour stickers, and the mental health facility that's there, they're parking on Haddon Street. So I got a couple of requests from residents that said that they can't even park in front, and that's one-sided parking also. So so this is the reason why I put it in as 24-hour, 7 days a week. And I know Zach wants to talk, Mr. Babbo, so, but this is the reason why, because they're getting the overflow from Winthrop Ave, from the mental health facility, the nurses and everything that can't park there, because they're very limited with parking, and they're not getting stickers. And so the residents are having a hard time parking there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Babo?
Mr. Chairman, so I'm handed on a map right now, and it's just to show the resident parking restrictions in this neighborhood. Any red street that you see is midnight to 6. Any green street you see is 24 hours. There's only one in this area. I'm not a proponent or an opponent against this. I just want to provide information to the commission, so that way you guys can make the decision you see fit. This had come up about a year ago regarding Haddon Street, and I do understand the council's request. I'm not getting the phone calls she's getting. I'm not getting the calls from the residents. I don't live there, so I'm not sure exactly what they're experiencing. But just from my experience looking at this, Winthrop Ave, this section of Winthrop Ave between Elm Street and Low Street, it's a highly dense area, one-sided parking, multi-family units, 3+ units in each building over there. If we were to put Haddon Street into a 24-hour street, this would stop all those residents from Winthrop Ave to be able to use Haddon Street as an outlet. Unfortunately, that is their only outlet right now with Victoria set up. So yes, I can see how Haddon is taking on an abuse. But if we were to restrict it, where are the rest of these people going to park? We're going to be pushing them further down the road. Harrington, Low Street, Elm Street is pretty dense as is. They're not going to fit. So this might help get rid of some cars that shouldn't be there during the day, but I think it's just going to have other residents coming home looking for parking, unable to find it, taking the easiest avenue, which would be Haddon, running into a parking ticket. And again, I don't live there. I'm not sure what's going on, what they're experiencing. And from my history here, Victoria Street, it has a bus stop at the end of it, which would allow somebody to park on Victoria Street, jump on that bus, get to Beachmont train station, and get into Boston. When this program was designed, it was geographically located to stop transient abuse. That was my impression of why Victoria Street was there. I was not employed by the city when it changed, but that was just my impression. I do understand the mental health facility that Councilor McKenna speaks on. That's right at the end. It's on the no parking side. There is no driveway there. So again, this is just sharing my experience, my interaction with this neighborhood, and kind of the adverse effects that would happen with this change. I'm supportive on any decision made by this commission. Just wanted to put the information in front of you so that way you could have it to digest. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Beva. Appreciate that. I don't say I have much opinion with this, other than the fact that I am concerned that residents on Winthrop Ave that use this already might be a little disappointed when they can no longer park on Haddon Street, because those are mostly single-family homes, if I'm not mistaken.
And if Haddon is seeing this big of a problem, changing one street in the neighborhood to 24 hours is not going to fix it. You will have to
Yeah.
address multiple, so that way you can continue to alleviate parking congestions for the rest of the people that have trouble getting home. So I think if we were to do this, I think the best way is to consider at least 4 or 5 of these streets in this neighborhood. And you don't have to do the whole length. You know, you can do sections of Vinyl, you can do a small section of Taft, include Haddon in there, section of Winthrop Ave as well. And I think that would help really get the whole neighborhood parking issues kind of straightened out. I think if you do it to Haddon, you're just going to create a hardship for one of the other residents on the other streets.
I would have to agree with you. Thank you.
You're right, like, take your pick. You're either gonna inconvenience people on Winthrop or inconvenience them on Haddon.
Yeah.
So you might as well
It might be
spread it
good.
out.
Thank you for the leeway, Joanne McKenna, one counselor. This is coming, because once Mac and Field is done, then they're gonna be inundated because there's no parking. And this was a problem back in the day where people that were using Mac and Field were parking all along those streets. So this is coming, whether you do it now or you do it in 2 years from now. But it is coming, because these people, you know, will, if they're using if this is gonna be a multi, facility, athletic facility, then you're gonna have people parking everywhere. So, this is gonna be a problem down the line, you know? And, I mean, if we're starting to, do, you know, do no parking on Winthrop Ave, then, you know, I mean, we might as well start this now. So, thank you.
Okay, but just so everybody is aware, I know that the development of the field is a concern of everyone in this area, but it will, the proposed design does include some off-street parking for that field that will help alleviate some of this issue. Council members?
Mr. Chairman, just a point of information. It seems to me that the facility on the corner, and possibly there's a few also businesses on Winthrop Ave, if we make this 24/7 permit parking, then those people that work there, the nurses and whatnot, where do they go? There's nowhere. So it would seem like that facility then, at some point, would close or have serious problems. So it's just something that I think we need to keep in mind, when we're talking about permitting 24/7, and just generally in any part of the city.
I agree.
Chairman, Nick Rescher makes a great point. And this was what we ran into at the beginning of the parking program, which we realized. So we have healthcare placards that are issued to healthcare workers in an area. As long as they submit the documentation, submit their medical ID showing they are employed, their employer sent us a letter, we do have permits for those. For any other occupational business that is operating in the area, we do have business permits as another option for those. I do know some of the businesses have driveways, but I'm sure there might be overflow onto the streets, but we do have the option to accommodate those needs, should this change go forward, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, committee members. Do we have any motion? I,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to table this so that we can look at it sort of, you know,
I am
in
cons-
a bigger picture.
yeah, I am concerned
Because
we do this
think,
on one street, it's just gonna domino
Yeah,
against the others.
so
We're
it
pushing
just-
traffic onto another.
You know, next meeting, we're gonna be talking about, you know, the next street and then the next one. And so I think if we look at it, you know, kind of, as a whole, you know, maybe we can figure something out that works or
I-
at least is equally inconvenient for everybody.
I believe we have to address the concerns about Winthrop Ave residents with the many multifamilies they have on Winthrop Ave. That might create a huge issue with making these all, it might eliminate their parking altogether.
I agree.
Okay,
So I'd make a motion to table it until we can.
okay. Motion to table, is there a second?
And
Item
just,
5 is tabled.
just to finish that up, and if the commission wants some data, I can definitely spend some time heavily enforcing this area overnight as the restrictions are. And if this comes back up, I can provide that data and what we are getting out of there for issuance per
Perfect.
night to see what kind of problem we're getting.
Thank you, Mr. Bava. Okay, next item. Item number 5, amend Schedule 8 of Title 10, parking restrictions generally by, my apologies. Request to have new signage placed on Mill Street Place since the old signs are currently worn out.
So that speaks for itself. And I don't see two-sided parking on Mill. There's no signs on both sides. There's only signs on the northerly part of it, and they're all worn. So I just asked for new signs, and I have to leave. So Zach's going to talk about number, is it 7? Yeah, it's number 7. He's going to speak for me, so I just wanted to know that.
This is no parking signs we're talking about?
No,
The worn
this
out
is
signs?
Winthrop Ave. He's going to talk
No,
about,
I'm
oh,
talking,
yes.
number 4.
Yes.
No parking signs are the
Yes, I just
signs in
want
question?
new signs up there. Now,
Okay, that's not something we have to,
Is that both sides?
we don't have to vote on that.
Mr. Chairman, any motions on this, I would add them to the public request going up next month for Mill Street. I think it's the same in line, right? Replacing Mill Street Place signs. And I would just have DPW staff hold off, wait for the public request meeting next week, make sure there's no additional pushback before these signs go up.
That's fine. Thank you. Okay, now item number 5, amend Schedule 8 of Title 10, parking restrictions generally by adding Griswold Park, 2-hour parking during the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 p.m., Monday through Sunday, except holidays. And then the second half to that is Griswold Park, no overnight parking during the hours of 11 p.m. to 8 a.m., Monday through Sundays, except holidays. And this will be Griswold Park, both lots, St. Mary's Way to 2-hour parking, okay. So this is just the lots we're speaking about? Okay.
Correct, and I hope the commission is able to understand what I drafted up. So Griswold Complex is 3 baseball fields, or 1 baseball field, 2 softball fields. It's separated by 2 parking lots, 1 on each side of it. Both sides are kind of seeing abuse. The backside more so, as there is a big unit on Washington Ave that does not get parking permits. They have off-street parking, and they are supposed to be staying on the lot. What is going on is there are extra vehicles moving into those units, and they were parking on Spagnola Road, getting ticketed, and now they're moving into Griswold Park. This has really complicated the issue recently, as Parks and Rec does a ton of events down there, RYBS, little softball in the city. There's been times where the city's shown up for events, and there's already 10 cars there at 7 in the morning that are from that building. The other building that's coming online that will use the same roadway as abuse is the one on the corner of Sherman and Washington Ave. They're eventually gonna start doing the same thing, taking up the complex in St. Mary's, and makes it hard on a day of an event to get some vehicles out of there. So we're noticing people are leaving their cars there. One car was dumped there. We got it red tagged. Revere Police was able to tow it, fortunately, thank you. So this was in conjunction with work with the Parks and Rec Department, as they've been kind of running into some issues.
Does the Park and Rec Department also believe that 2 hours is sufficient for parking in those fields during events and softball games or whatnot?
So we did speak about that, yes. We considered moving it up to 3 hours. We figured we'd put it in front of the traffic commissioner for 2. He was satisfied with it, but if there's an amendment to go to 3, 4 hours, I would understand that change.
I think I might think that 3 hours should be, just some of those games do last a long time. I don't want to tip people getting ticketed for watching their son's baseball game or the after-hour games they have.
Absolutely, understand.
So,
I would recommend 3 hours be a reasonable medium.
okay, thank you, Mr. Stringy. Let's amend that to be 3-hour parking, and then we can continue with the no parking, 11 PM to 8 AM. Is there anyone else like to speak of this matter? I don't believe so.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to send this to a public hearing with the modification of the 3 hours as opposed to 2 hours, as Mr. Stringy had mentioned.
Agreed. Is there a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? Move to public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, number 6 is in line with number 5. The way the ordinance is written, I had to record them in both sections to be viable.
Okay. Amend Schedule 23 of Title 10, tollway zones, off-street parking, okay. So this is just an addition of making it acceptable to tow, no parking during the hours of 11 PM and 8 PM, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to send this also to a public hearing.
Is there a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, move to a public hearing. Next item on the agenda is amend Schedule 8 of Title 10, parking restrictions, generally by adding no parking along northerly side of State Road along Beachmont Station fence, point 100 feet easterly of Winthrop Ave, following time area parking spaces along State Road to point 600 feet easterly of Winthrop Ave, no parking. Area would span approximately 500 feet along northerly side of State Road. Now, do we have the ability to actually put something in favor on this on the books? I don't believe we do.
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe we do.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, so somewhere along the line, resident parking signs went up along the fence of the MBTA, of the Blue Line train station.
Resident,
So they've been there for years. I've been with the city for 6 years. When I started in 2018, those signs were there. It's been years that allowed parking has happened there, as long as it was a residential sticker. Now, within the past 6 months, MBTA came out, they did some work at that Blue Line train station, some of those signs had come down. There was a request to me to ask for those signs to get back put up to make sure that we could enforce the area. Looking at it, I didn't believe that there should be parking over here anyways. The breakdown lane doesn't come out further enough. It's a two-way travel road. The 100-foot point that I referenced here is because if you stand on the corner of Winthrop Ave and State Road, there are about two parking spaces that are about 30-minute. They say 30 minutes parking, and I think the intent, it looks like a little inlet, and it was designed to allow people to pick people up from the train station, what I believe. Beyond that, it shrinks, and you run the parking lane into a travel lane. So it should have been no parking. I was just trying to get something on the books that would allow us to put up signs. If this requires us to reach out to DOT and get approval from DOT first, I can definitely do that.
Thank you, Zach. I will bring this to the attention of the DOT myself and see what they would like to do moving forward. I don't believe we should make a ruling one way or the other on something like this.
Awesome. And then Councilman McKenna just asked to add to this motion that if, with the request of DOT, can we look into painting arrows to show which lane is the direction of travel? For instance, if you're driving on State Road, it's a two-lane road going towards East Boston. The left lane is designed to turn onto Winthrop Ave. The right lane is designed to go straight. She wanted me to ask if we could look into some arrows to help.
That's fine. I'll bring it to the attention of the DOT as well. I gotta have them Squire Road also has some issues with some painting. They need to do some line striping around our city.
We know we got the man for the job, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. Item number 8, amend Schedule 6 of Title 10, handicap persons parking by adding 5 Florence Ave, Apartment 1. I believe there's some material that was handed out to us associated with this. Am I wrong? No? Oh, okay. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this? 5 Florence Ave, handicap parking permit? No?
Did Ralph send an email?
Okay, maybe we should just table this until we get the correct information that goes along with this?
Is he recommending it?
I believe he
Laurie?
was. I read the email. I don't know exactly what was in the packet, but he did send along some type of information with it, I believe. Oh, okay. Okay, well, let's just table this until we can get the correct
Why
information.
don't we just can I make a motion, send it to a public hearing, and then we could,
Oh, that's fine. Okay,
yeah.
Second.
second. All those in favor? Move to public hearing. The last item is request to install speed tables and other traffic calming measures both on Proctor Ave near the fire hydrant at 36 Elm Street. This was previously tabled, and I don't believe there's anyone here to speak on this matter anyway. Again,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to table this, to give us some time to run it through the new guidelines,
okay.
and, you know, vet those 2 locations.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Item is tabled. All right, and that, oh, sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned, is there a second? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.